one of my really good friends who she was working at the treatment center that I got sober at, and I hated being there every single day, and she would always rattle off those one day at a time.
Oh, yeah. What is up, you guys? Welcome back to the #1 mental health and addiction podcast, the Hopeaholics. I am your girl, Natalie Eva Marie, and these are my boys.
I'm Chad.
Hi, I'm Shane.
Make sure you guys like, subscribe, and follow us on our socials and wherever you get your podcasts.
Got a new episode dropping every Monday and Thursday. Please come check it out.
This episode is brought to you by the Infinity Group. You guys, if you or a loved one is suffering, please call us today. The number is right here on the screen. We are here for you 24/7. Now, let's get into the episode.
All right.
Okay.
Wait, so you got introduced to AA at 18?
18.
Yes, I did.
Wow.
Yes, 18 years old. I was going to hang out with a friend. One of my good friends called me and said, hey, do you want to do something tonight? And I thought we were going to go to a party, typical things that we did. And she took me to an AA meeting. Yeah.
Out of the blue? Or
out of the blue, clear blue. There's no way. I don't even think I knew what alcoholism was. I mean, that was a long time ago, but I don't think I had any concept of what it meant to be an alcoholic. So we went to an AA meeting, and it was, I didn't need to be there. I didn't want to be there.
Yeah. I
didn't know what was going on. I was not familiar with any of that.
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't something that was running rampant through my household.
Were you enjoying life at the time?
I was. I thought I was just being your average teenager.
Right.
You know,
right.
I grew up in Palm Desert and the Coachella Valley.
Yeah.
So we just did what high schoolers do, cake parties on the weekends. And, you know, it was, I don't know, I thought it was normal.
Was she struggling? Is that why she
I don't think she was. I think that she probably saw something in me that I couldn't. And I think that generally is the case from time to time. You know, it's always easier as an observer to notice things in your loved ones, people that you care about, right? And then to put that mirror in front of somebody, it's really difficult, I think, and especially at 18, you know.
Oh, for sure.
And I see a lot of that in what I do now and working with teenagers. And I remember exactly how I felt, which was angry and frustrated. At the time, I didn't want to go inside. I can't remember what was said. Absolutely no desire to be open to that. And fun fact is, at 35, I went back into that same AA meeting and got sober.
Wow.
Yeah.
So then what led you to go back there at 35? What started that journey?
Unmanageability.
Yeah.
Just the way, you know, I became a geographic. I was a runner. Everything for me was it was, if I go here, it's going to be different. And for a minute it was, but after a while, it just all kind of came full circle like it normally does. And I had moved to multiple cities, big cities. I just, you know, it was escape. And I had finally come back to the desert. And one more time, everything just fell apart. And so that time, it was my parents who took me to that meeting.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Do you have any siblings?
I do. I have 4 younger brothers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And does it run in your family, or are you the...
I'm the only alcoholic.
Yeah.
I'm the lucky one. And, you know, it's been a journey. It's not, like I said, it's not necessarily something that's ran rapid. I don't have, my story's just a little bit different, but, you know, I always kind of skirted the edges of just enough, you know? So, I mean...
I was there. I mean, here's the thing. When I was younger, I didn't know what crazy was. Like, I didn't know my crazy. You know, my parents knew it. And even now, when my aunt came to visit at my daughter's thing, she said to me, she said, oh, Shane, you look so good. I'm so happy you're enjoying your life. You had such a troubled childhood. And I'm like, what do you mean?
You can't see it.
What do you mean?
Really
I thought it was,
it.
man. Yeah. I mean, sure, was I hit? Sure, I was this, that, but it's not like I felt like I was, you know. Yeah.
I mean, it's difficult, and obviously hindsight's 2020,
Of
right?
course,
I mean,
always.
you look back on it, and I think about those nights or those early mornings when I would come home, and my mom would be sitting outside on the porch waiting
Mine
to make sure
too.
that I would be alive.
Yes.
Yeah, and just those sleepless nights. And I think one of the things that hit me the hardest was one day, it was during Easter. I had gone over to my parents' house, and while I wasn't around, they had taken the house key off of my keychain. And my mom had said to me, "We have given your life over to the care of God. There's nothing else that we can do for you." And that hit different. It was, I'd love to say that I went straight to AA and figured it out. But it definitely was something that was cause for pause, because I had a very loving family that was like, "What do we need to do?" They did an intervention.
Wow.
"Where do you need to go for treatment? How can we help you?" And I said, no, I got it figured out. I'll just go to AA. And that's fine and all well and good. But if you don't show up on time and you leave early and you don't believe in what's going on in those rooms, then you're never going to get it. And you're never going to understand it.
Never.
So I really just needed I needed the gift of desperation, really. And it was when I was given that. And then I did it, I got in on a county bed somewhere, stayed in the program in the facility area for up to a year, started working in treatment, and then just kind of did it on my own.
Wow.
And it was challenging, right?
Yeah.
But I needed to do it that way, because if I allowed somebody to bail me out, I wouldn't have been given that desperation that I needed to do what it took and to have that willingness. Because for a long time I was like, I'm willing. But there's a fine line between wanting what everybody has and being willing to do what it takes.
And then hitting that
for
county
sure.
bed. Hitting that county bed is a big step.
Well, you hear that all the time in meetings, people wanting, the promises to happen, this, that, and the other, but yet they don't have a sponsor, they haven't opened the book, and they're doing the bare minimum, which is just getting to the meeting.
Yeah.
And so you can't expect results from the work that you didn't do.
No, you truly can't. And it's always fascinating, to kind of watch. And I was that typical person where, you have people who come into AA and they dive in and they're, but it was scary for me.
Sure.
It was very scary, because while I knew that I needed it and I really wanted it and I was willing, it just for me was like, oh my gosh, what does this actually mean? My life was going to be forever changed, and it was. And you sit in those speaker meetings and you listen to people and they talk about their life, and you're like, that can't be true. That can't be true.
Oh, for sure. I was that person too.
And then after a while, you're like, holy smokes. This is happening. And it's really just completely giving yourself to the care of God and doing everything that you need to do in Alcoholics Anonymous. It saved my life. And I have a beautiful life today. One that, as people would say before me, I could never imagine or dream of.
And that's what I think is so kind of funny and humorous about the program is I myself was that person that would go to a meeting and be talking shit in my head, like, this is impossible. Yeah. There's no way. This is crazy. You guys are all cuckoo. And then I'm doing the same thing you just said. Yeah. I utter those exact words. Yeah. So I've become that person that is telling others in a meeting how, I'm living a life beyond my wildest dreams. And that doesn't mean that life isn't happening on life's terms. It's just that my toolbox is full. Because I've also been on the other side of the coin of been sober, but then life gets busy and then I stop working necessarily a program, but I'm still sober. And that's misery. Misery.
For sure.
It's terrible.
For sure. Yeah, life gets super lifey sometimes, and you just kind of have to, one of the things that I love about my sponsor, she's very simple, and I need that. Yeah. I'm that type of person that it's like, I can't have that sponsor that's like, sit down, write 400 pages about your feelings. Totally. I can't do it. Yeah. I can't do it. Yeah. I need to be like, tell me, and that's why working with her, it was like, find a quiet place and pray. And I was like, okay. I used to get so mad when she would say that. I would get so angry because I'm like, how does that work? Yeah. Right? How does that work? And it's definitely something that I use on a regular basis, and because, of course, I didn't have a God, right? Prior to AA, and even still there was like this resentment and all of those things that come with getting sober. But I don't know, it just over time, it was something that I came to believe in.
You need that.
You for sure. You need two things. You need the desperation to actually
get in the door,
start doing the work, right?
Yeah.
Which obviously has to end up being, and everybody's point is different.
Sure.
Everyone's little bottom that makes them actually start putting in that work that it's required to see those results that you hear in the meetings.
Mm-hmm.
So you need the desperation for sure, hands down. Because if you don't have that, you're not real willing to do. It's a simple program, but yet it requires action.
Yeah.
So it's crazy because it is a simple program, and I'm lucky my sponsor made everything really simplistic too, because or else I'm gonna be like, I don't know, I'm overwhelmed and just stressing me out.
100%.
Very, very simple, very easy, and then obviously come to believe in a power greater than yourself.
And yet only 10% or under make it.
Yeah, because
it's crazy.
It's well, one, it's a disease
Yeah.
that is doing push-ups every single day, getting stronger, and is ready to take my ass out and kill me, because that's what it wants.
Yeah.
So I have to combat that and do the little simple things that I never want to do, but then I always feel better once I do them.
Yeah.
And stay on top of that rigorously. That's like my number one priority.
Yeah.
Every single day, because I know the other side and I don't want to go back.
Yeah.
So it's just having that constant understanding, because I would have the resentment like, oh, because my husband he's a normie, so I talk shit all the time saying like, God, do you know how much work I have to do just to be on an even playing field? You just wake up out of bed and I've already put in some hours of work just to be equal.
Right.
It's annoying, it's frustrating.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, we're the lucky ones because we have this toolbox that I feel not only an addict or alcoholic, but the everyday person actually could benefit from, because it's all about accountability, keeping your side of the street clean, making amends, being of service, doing all the things that we as humans technically are made to do.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think it's interesting how it flips, right? Like at first you're like, oh, I can't do all these things. They're so, but
For sure.
it's sometimes when, I deal with a lot of people who are not alcoholics.
Sure.
And it makes me so grateful every day that I have the tools that I've learned in AA and the 12 steps that I can manage my life. When I look at some of these people and I'm like, I almost wish you were an alcoholic so you could manage things the way we get to manage them.
Well, I think about that all the time.
All the time.
Because we're able to have this more, or I not everybody, because you're right, because a lot of people that do end up in AA, they don't make it for a handful of reasons. One, the disease is definitely strong. Two, it does require effort and showing up and accountability and doing kind of the deal that we're suggested to do.
Yeah.
So I think that takes a lot of work, and a lot of people would rather not, because it's easier to pick up a pill or drink.
I cried. I did a lot of crying. I mean, for my first 6 months, I was crying.
I'm a crier.
Like, I cried. So, I mean, I went all out on this last time. I went to a county-funded facility this time. I made a phone call, toll-free number. I got a ticket. I went to Charlie Street for my first 12 days. I cried for my first 6 months.
There's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing. Well, I'm just saying, that's what it took for me to, to get sober and get normal.
Yeah.
Is that
Hello,
right?
Chadwick.
Hello, Chaddock.
Hi, Chad.
This
Come
is
on
Stevie.
in.
How's it going?
Hi, Chad.
We gave her the rundown of a little bit of why you weren't here, so I'm glad you're here. I'm glad everything is going okay.
Better.
Getting better.
Getting better.
Yeah.
Not out of the woods yet, but we're getting there.
Yeah. Yeah, it's tough. It's
Yeah.
tough. And you're working with adolescents.
Yes. Yes.
And
we do.
adolescence is, like, I've been doing this for 20 years, so is Chad. And I'll tell you something. Adolescence is one area that I have totally stayed away from. I've given advice to parents, friends that have called and said, hey, I got a 16-year-old, but I've never dived into helping truly helping adolescents, because it's very delicate.
What made you want to get into adolescents and teenagers in this field? Because I feel like not only are you dealing with young people, but young people come with parents. And I feel like that's even harder.
Yeah. So, well, like when I started working in recovery, I was doing a lot of business development, and I had some things going on in my personal life, or a woman who was very encouraging of me getting sober was dying of cancer. And you know, at that time I was incredibly unhappy with, you know, there was
Sure.
fulfilling
Yeah.
moments. I was having a lot of fun playing golf and doing all these things, but it wasn't hitting me the right way. And so I was just kind of at this point in my own personal journey, and I started doing some self-reflection and things like that when she had passed, and I wanted to do something a little bit bigger and more so just for me. And like living in the desert, there wasn't a lot of resources, you know, even growing up. And it was a different time back then, but I kind of thought, well, maybe it would be cool to provide a safe space for kids. Like, because when I was growing up, nobody talked about depression. Nobody talked about anxiety.
Sure.
Nobody really talked about any of the things that they're talking about today. And so I kind of reached out to some people that I had met in the industry, and I had these ideas of what I was looking to do. And I went and met with a gentleman, and he told me about the program that he was running and what it looked like. And I was like, wow, that's really simple. I mean, it's not bells and whistles. It's basically, you know, it's an adolescent program with a family component. And I was like, this is a great idea. Like,
Yeah.
I love this, because how often is it that, you know, and especially in a progressive time like right now, where parents don't really know, right? Or they're busy working 2 jobs,
Sure.
or you've got the single mom who's working 2 jobs, and, you know, there's so many different components. And so I was like, well, this is really cool. So we ended up partnering up, and I opened up a office in the desert in 2017 when I was 5 years sober.
Oh, wow.
And I'd never ran a business before, so I was kind of like, well, this is a big learning experience. But for me, it wasn't necessarily, of course, I learned things about running the business, but it was working with the kids that I really enjoyed. Mostly because you're not really going to see a lot of the results, right? And so I think with alcoholism and with recovery and addiction, there's a level of patience that you have to have in order to understand the process. And so it was really being able to work with the families to say, hey, you have to be patient, and you have to have compassion, and you have to have kindness. And I while there's all of this stuff going on in your home, I understand that, but with the kids, you just have to plant the seeds. And there's many of times where you're talking to kids about recovery and stuff like that. And again, like I was 18, I was like, no, this is not for me. And it's really difficult to sit in front of a teenager and say, you might be an alcoholic or an addict. They're like, they don't even understand what that means.
Yeah.
So it's really just kind of providing that safe space for them to authentically be who they are and be able to get vulnerable with their family. Was something that I felt like would have helped me maybe, right? And then, you know, when I look at that, I'm like, well, maybe because God took me down that path for a reason.
Yeah.
So maybe I would have, maybe it wouldn't have, but that's neither here nor there, because I had to go down the road that I had to go down.
For sure.
And so it is hard working with adolescents, you know, a lot of people, and when I had asked the questions, why aren't there more places? A lot of the responses that I was getting was because it's really hard. And it is hard. It is very hard.
Not only is it hard to work with them, it's in California, it's hard to get credentialed to work with them.
Yes.
That's one of the reasons why I stayed away from it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for us, we have smaller facilities, you know, we don't really, our desert office has grown. We used to only take roughly about 12 to 15 kids and their families at the same time. So our program is structured in a way that the teens come 3 or 4 days a week. They get 2 hours of their own individual therapy. And then they also are assigned a separate family therapist.
Oh, okay.
So that's really cool, because the teen always really feels like they have a safe place, right? Yeah. And then the family therapist almost has to act like Switzerland, right? Because it's like you have to be able to navigate both. And then treatment team meetings and stuff, they kind of come together and work that out. But I think the hard part is recognizing your scope, right? And so for us, it's keeping it small, keeping it intimate, keeping it very personal. A lot of our staff have really good relationships with the families and the teens, and that's what makes it more, I guess, comfortable for them to be vulnerable and trust our process.
Yeah.
But it is hard. It's very hard. It's very difficult working with teens.
I did a pickup, midnight 1 a.m. pickup in Vegas. We drove down, ex-cop. He was the main guy. He was the driver, and I was the shotgun. We went to this home, knocked on the door. Parents came to the door, said, "Oh, okay, good. He's downstairs in bed." We went downstairs. I stood at the door. The guy shook him, said, "Hey, Jimmy, you're at the end of the line, buddy. We're going. Pack one bag. We're gone. Let's go." This kid was not happy.
I don't think you can do that
We
in
did that in
California
Nevada.
anymore.
Oh yeah, we did it.
Yeah, no, I know.
That's what they call. Oh my goodness, what's it called, guys? The word I'm looking for is.
It's not an intervention.
No, it's not. It's
This was in Nevada. I remember.
Yeah, no, I know.
Yeah.
They still do that.
Yeah, they do.
A lot of
Yeah.
places still
Yeah.
do that.
They had a
It's
huge
crazy.
documentary come out on a specific place that
It
was,
was bad.
terrible.
I saw
Yeah.
that with the girl. Yeah.
Dang, I forget what you call
I
it.
didn't like it. I never did it again.
Are you talking about the wilderness programs? Because the wilderness programs did that a lot.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
they probably still do. And not all wilderness programs are bad.
No.
No, there's some good ones out there.
there's some good
It's
ones
just
out
like
there.
with everything.
But what
there's
you want to
humans
do
are
is
bad
you want to
eggs,
find
you know?
Sure.
you want to find somebody like Stevie who can refer you to the right place.
Right.
You do.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
Because not everybody's reputable.
No.
No. And that's with I feel honestly,
That's
with
with everything.
Yeah.
Yes, every corporation, anything that you're dealing with, it's because humans are humans and there's going to be human error. People don't have the best intentions all the time. So that's with just every institution and every
Yeah.
organization as well as corporation. It's just kind of the nature of the beast. And specifically this one is just a bigger bite in the apple because you are dealing now with adolescents, teenagers.
Yeah.
Their brains aren't even fully developed.
Yeah. It's
There's
hard.
a lot of
and it's heartbreaking.
well, and there's just a lot of uncertainty at that age that you're dealing with to begin with.
yes,
So
confusion,
you
everything.
don't know. You're in school. You want to be. I would assume, and I know it's a trait that alcoholics and addicts share, but wanting to be liked, wanting to be
Sure.
a people pleaser. I think teens in general, addict or not, want to be a part of. Because, you're amongst peers. It's a weird time. People are changed. You're going through puberty. It's just it's a terrible time, really.
Yeah,
But
and it's changed a lot, right?
Yeah.
And I
Oh,
think
yeah.
as human beings, right, we just want to be good humans. I think in every kid, they're a good human at their core.
Sure.
But life happens and circumstances are different for everybody. But I think it's just trying to, really understand that times are so different now.
So different.
Kids don't have any real escape. And where they are escaping, it's not really healthy. And you
No,
talk about the brain not being developed, they're not equipped to handle the stuff that
all.
they're seeing online.
No, it
crazy.
is so crazy and it's so
crazy.
detrimental for their health on multiple magnitudes of I mean, I used to play outside till the light came on and that's when I had to come home.
And it was safe.
And it was safe.
And
And
it
it
was
was
safe.
playing capture the flag, had to go seek. You're doing all these activities, which also is you're exercising, you're running, you're releasing dopamine, all of the brain chemistry that you need. Where now the kids are looking for that dopamine hit off of a cell phone, and they're spending. I think a stat came out.
13 hours a day.
It's crazy.
12?
And looking at unrealistic things, and that's what they're consuming in their brain.
But the problem is like half of these people that post stuff in this world are not posting reality, and people that are posting pictures. There's so many apps out there to Facetune, to body tune,
true,
to do
yeah.
all these things, and you're really truly not looking at reality. And then you start getting into the whole TikTok algorithms. Woof! Those
That's
can
tough.
take you down a rabbit hole.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
It can all be used for good, but
But it's not, though.
But it's not,
No, it's
and
not.
that's the thing.
It's not.
We just had our. She's actually our corporate lawyer on. She was on someone else's podcast in our studio, so I was listening in on it, and it is so insane what is happening. She has 2 teenage girls as well, but so in this little Snapchat kind of TikTok world, they're building these little communities amongst, so they don't meet or anything like that, but they're building this facade where it's cool to be depressed and suicidal and have that kind of sad feeling or vibe going on. So then it's contagious amongst these group of people. That's like where they kind of feed off one another.
Yeah.
And then it becomes a huge detriment. And now all of a sudden you have kind of a fake reality that you're consuming and putting into your brain, telling yourself you feel this way, and then all of a sudden now you're trying to act as such. It's bizarre.
It happens. I mean, you see different trends, right? You see different trends. And back in 2017, this was pre-TikTok, and it was just mostly Instagram. And, you know, there would be all of these different dark pages, right? And so we would see, I think that was right around the time when cutting was like a huge thing. And so it was, not that it's not anymore, I mean, but it was one of those things that teens were going onto these dark pages, and that's how they were learning how to cope with certain things. And so it's and then comes Snapchat, and then TikTok, and all of these, you know, what's that platform? They use it a lot now for gaming. I can't.
Twitch.
No, it's
Roblox.
Something else. It's,
it's
I can't remember what it'll come to me, but different platforms and different things. And the thing is that, you know, pre-COVID, right, you had kids that were starting to go down these different electronic rabbit holes, and then we get hit with this massive pandemic, and so they don't have anything to do. School's online, everything's online. It's just online. And what we're seeing now is that you can have, obviously we don't allow cell phones in the program, but one of the biggest things that we deal with when kids come into the program is that initial spike in social anxiety and the inability to communicate with people.
For sure.
Like, and
looking
you
at
see
someone
it
in the
all
face,
the time. If you go out to, you go out to restaurants and you see just groups of kids, they're all hanging out and they're all just on their phones, probably texting each other or sending each other stuff. And, you know, I mean, I'll admit I'm guilty of sitting next to my partner and sending a funny TikTok when she's sitting right there or what have you. But to the degree, it's like a wildfire. And I don't think that, you know, I don't know what the answer is, but it's definitely something that, and of course, as parents, you want to monitor. And now there's all these different things that you try to.
And they're slick. Because I've heard they create apps and
apps to hide apps and things like that.
And to hide what they're looking at.
You can also, I mean, I'm in the midst of teenagers.
Yeah.
I have a 16-year-old daughter who is very hip on the game.
Yeah.
And there's apps that will put your location where you say you are.
That's so
next
wild.
level.
That is
right?
crazy.
So you're saying you're staying at Jill's house, and we check your location, and yes, you are at Jill's house.
But you're not really
But you're not at Jill's house.
Wow.
You're at a 21 and over club because you can get a fake ID that is scannable even through the machine.
That's crazy.
Off the internet.
It's trying times. It's very trying times.
It's rough. It's rough. It's really rough to be a teenager right now because your expectations are so high.
Yeah.
Your social skills are truly low. You're so right. That a group of them will sit around and they'll be texting each other because it's easier to say what you want to say than to actually speak the words.
And that's why kids can be so mean, right? And I go back to, like, I feel like we're all good people, right? But we get sucked into these behaviors. And it's like really easy for me to like text you something absolutely horrific, like you should die or go kill yourself. But you know what? Like, I can't look you in the eye and say that. There's not enough anger in my heart to do that, but I can certainly hide behind a screen. And I think that that's really, really difficult, you know, but it's also, what do you do?
I know.
I mean, we have our kids they're in sports and, you know, we monitor things and we talk to them all the time and stuff like that. And it's just having the time to really parent again. And, you know, I think right now, there's so much uncertainty across the board, right? With just the economy and everything. It's so hard. So many people are living in fear. And as parents, it's really easy how many times I've heard, I can't even count, well, if you take my phone away, I'm going to kill myself. And as a parent, you're like, oh my God, okay, here you go. And then the next thing you know, you get sucked into this parenting out of fear cycle that you know, you end up in a program like ours, you have to start setting boundaries, you have to start doing all of these things, but then you also have to have time and compassion and vulnerability and kindness to sit down with your kid and listen to them, hear them. And you know, and I think that's hard. It's hard as a parent to hear that your kid is hurting, right? I mean, that tear you up. Absolutely. Like, I mean, I could have a middle schooler come home from school saying the boys are being mean and they're doing X, Y, and Z. And there's a rage inside of you that's like, it's different. It hits different, you know? But it's just, it's hard.
I think it is one of those, I don't know the right answer either. And plus I don't, like I was telling you earlier, I don't have kids, so I can't speak too much on like, oh, I would do this, because I have no idea, because I don't have them. But I do feel like there is a lack of respect amongst child and parent, where I'm 40 years old and I'm still scared of my parents because they were very instilled the hierarchy, where they weren't trying to be my best friend. They were basically, I respected them, where, oh, I don't want mom and dad to find out, or, ooh, this type of thing.
And it used to be like that.
Yes, where now it's like you have this difference of like parents are trying almost to be friends, and then it just is, it's weird where like there's the kid is running like a little terrorist. Yeah. So it's like, what do you do? Like the juggling is so crazy, and it's because times have shifted, and it's just, I feel there's so many messiness on so many levels that it's, I feel for parents out there at this kind of age right now.
The real answer is love. Like the real answer is unconditional love, which you can have that as a parent. But you also have to set boundaries. Yeah. You have to set rules, and with those rules come consequences. And then with those consequences, you can earn things back. You know, say it's like you have a curfew of 11 o'clock. Well, every 15 minutes that you're home after 11 o'clock, you lose your phone for a day. Yeah. You get home
and follow through.
You have to follow through.
You have to follow through.
For sure.
If they think that you're not going to. So if you're home at 11:02, that's 15 minutes. Yeah. You've lost your phone for a day. You can earn half of that day back by doing all the other stuff that you're supposed to do on a daily basis, like clean your room. Yeah. Feed yourself. Shower. Brush your teeth. Do your chore. Whatever little chores you have around the house. That's what I started doing because, you know, my kids have all been different. My son, I didn't really have to do anything. He just did all the right things most of the time. And when he did something wrong, he felt so guilty that it was useless punishing him. Yeah. Or giving him consequences that he was giving himself was enough. Yeah. My daughters, not so much. They needed mostly the phone. Yeah. You could put them on restriction for 2 weeks, but if they have their phone, life's still good.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. They're still connected. It's a hard thing to navigate.
It is really.
The phone has become crack cocaine, man.
Yeah, that's become an addiction. It truly has become an addiction for people. It's so consumable where if they don't have it, they're having meltdowns.
Oh, 100%. And you see it, and it's happening younger and younger. Yeah. Like, and I think that it kind of goes like when the iPad started coming out and just give them the iPad and just, you know, make them be quiet and sit in the corner. And so it just, and again, it goes back to, you know, really wanting to take the time to listen to your kids and wanting to hear what they're saying, because it's just different, you know?
You have to listen to them.
It's changed so much.
You do have to listen to them because, and you got to ask them, what are you thinking?
Yeah, but back in the olden days, we had no choice. And I'm just sitting here thinking when I was a menace, me and my brother were menaces growing up. And my mom and my grandmother, my dad, whatever, they used to have to grab you by the ear, drag you outside and say, hey, man, like, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, what are you feeling right now? But if they gave me a machine and said, hey, here's a quarter, go play some pinball, I'd say, yeah, okay, let's go. Yeah. And all of a sudden I'm stuffing that down, even though I don't know I'm stuffing it down. I'm creating problems down there that are festering. And in 20 years, that's going to blow up on me.
Right.
Because you think pinball was the answer.
Yeah.
I love pinball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love
Definitely.
pinball too.
I love
It was a
pinball.
good
I
answer
mean, that
for
was,
me.
yeah.
Lunchtime.
100%.
I love
Wait,
the-
but then wait, I'm confused. But you're saying so you had an issue going on, and instead of dealing with the issue, or your parents knowing that you have an issue, are you
just giving you the game.
Oh, like the iPad.
Well, they're not concerned if you have an issue because you're screaming at the table. You're at Wendy's or you're at dinner, some
Round
restaurant,
table
at
or
the
some
round
pizza
table
place,
or whatever.
you
Yeah,
know, whatever.
And they don't want to get up because they're having a conversation with Stevie. They don't want to get up. They just say, "Rather here, give him the game, honey. Give him the game quick."
Oh,
Shut him
making
up."
me quiet.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just give him the game. Let's not figure out what's going on in his.
That's
little
why I'm
head
saying
right
there's so many elements to the
Oh,
kind of
it's,
issue
Yeah.
where
it's the absolute spider web of
Well,
yeah,
Spider web.
because then he goes back to okay, well, parents have to have more time to care and like
Yeah,
pay
where is
attention
it?
to the child.
Where is
but
it?
then now we live in an economy where both parents are usually working to
Or it's
stay in a
50%
household
single
system.
parent.
Yeah.
Right.
50%
Half the
families
time
are
you're at your dad's house or
This
your
is what
mom's.
I'm saying.
It's like it's such a mess.
It's such a
that
mess.
it's like where do you begin?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
There's no real family like there was before, like 40, 50 years ago, where you had a son and an uncle and an aunt and the grandmother.
Okay, that's super
All
old.
living-
But how about this one? That's even further back.
You know
That's
what I
like that's like how my mom grew up,
Yeah.
right? But then I'd even look at my generation where I don't see this at all anywhere anymore. I grew up and all of the neighbors, like my mom and all of the other moms, they were in each other's ear all the time.
Yeah.
Yep.
They would be watching the kids and be like, "Oh shit, there's
Eating
Mrs.
seeds
Vesely."
outside.
Like every mom
Yeah.
was paying attention to other children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like also too, if you stepped out of line
They
and it wasn't
told
in
you.
front of your mom, you better believe not only Mrs. Harden or Mrs. Vesely or Mrs.
Yeah.
Wine
Yep.
is going to check me, but she's also going to pick up the phone and tell,
Hey.
hey, just so you know,
Little Betty was bad. To
yes.
Yeah.
We don't have that anymore either. It's like
No,
the
I
yeah.
think she gave real names of her real neighbors.
I
that
did.
were watching.
100%.
shout out to you ladies. Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know your neighbors like you used to.
Right?
I don't
No.
know. I do not know my neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't
it's
know
so
them.
crazy.
Well, I actually, two of them are crazy. I hope they don't watch my podcast. Literally.
They probably think you're crazy too.
Whatever. I am. I know that. Though. The difference is I know I'm crazy.
That's good.
You know, you just have to do the best that you can with the tools that we were given. You know, and
It's unfortunate. It's sad.
Love is always the answer.
Yeah.
Loving humanity is always the answer.
I think in compassion and kindness, right? Like,
Yeah.
everything is so busy. I mean, it's just get up, you go,
Yeah.
go, and do. And, you know, it's like all of these things. And and I'm grateful for AA, right?
Yeah,
Because AA taught
totally.
me to stop and be present. And I try to do that as much as possible, but it's just like in this process of recovery, it's, you know, sometimes stillness is just a minute, even if it's a minute,
Yeah.
right? I mean, think about how busy you are. I mean, I spend a lot of time in the car driving from Palm Desert to San Marcos to our Murrieta office to all of these different offices, and I'm in the car and I'm on the phone and I'm working and I'm doing all of these things. And, you know, my partner was like, do you ever get time to yourself? And it's like, no, I don't really when I'm in the car. Like I'm always doing stuff. And, you know, there's this hike in the desert that I love to do. It's called the Bump and Grind. It's this really weird hike. It's very intense and
I like it.
takes
Me
about
too.
like an hour
Great
and a
name.
half. And
You just like the
it's-
name.
I mean, it was
I mean,
great. It's
yeah,
a great
I-
name.
Not gonna lie.
Well,
Yeah.
You know.
and it's, you know, in the desert, it's you get up in the morning, and I used to race the clock of time, right? I used to wake up early enough and try to get up to this top
Okay.
spot to where I could watch the sunrise. And that was the best part of my day, because turn off the music, turn everything off, sit there in total silence, watch the sunrise. And there would be more mornings where I would be huffing to get there, and there would be mornings where I wouldn't make it in time. But just on that trail alone, it was just my time with myself and my God.
Yep.
And watching that sun come up, you know, my partner would be like, why do you get up so early? And it's because that feeds my soul.
Yep.
It's a quiet moment that I wish more people could find in our world today. And I think working with teens, these kids are our future, right?
Yeah.
And so as adults, we're busy. We're busier than we've ever been, right? If it's not for this or for that or for whatever reason. So it's just working with these teens to get them to see that if they could just pause, right? And give them a lifeline of something different, right? And then working with the parents to show them, help them, learn how to listen, right? Learn how to hear the hard stuff.
Sure.
Because that's just the fact of the matter is nobody wants to hear the hard stuff.
Yeah.
I can listen all day to the wonderful things that the kids are doing.
Yeah.
But when you have a kid that is hurting desperately and is sitting in front of you, that's hard.
Yeah.
It's really, really hard.
Yeah, but back then I didn't have decisions to make. My mother, my family, for dinner I had one thing to eat. I didn't eat it. Guess what?
That's
You're
how
not
I
eating.
fell in love
That's
with
how-
ketchup, honestly, because if
That's
I
like-
didn't like it,
Yeah.
I didn't have a choice. I just put ketchup all over it
this is-
For
because
sure.
I had to eat it.
So today we're asking a lot of questions to these kids.
Sure.
We're not telling
Well, a
them.
lot of people don't do the traditional sit down. I'm
No.
gonna say more people don't than do these days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm guilty. I've never done the sit down with my family.
It's actually something that we encourage when a teen and a family come into our program. If it's not something they're already doing, it is a assignment that we give them.
It makes sense.
Nice.
Quiet time and no phone.
Family
you have
dinner.
to actually look
Family
up somebody.
dinner.
Family
yeah,
dinner.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
I get why. For sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's too many choices for kids. And
I do that. I don't do the dinner part, but I do sleepovers. You know what I mean?
What do you mean?
I'll like on the weekends, my girls will say, "Let's watch a movie. We'll make popcorn.
Movie
we'll have
night.
Oh, okay.
We'll have a
Yeah, you made it sound weird.
a salad. Not a
Jeez.
salad.
Didn't he? He said sleepovers. So I'm thinking, what?
Sorry,
They're in your own house.
That's what
Movie
I
night
meant.
with my kids.
I was thinking,
Movie night.
you know how he took his daughter.
Oh, yeah, to the zoo.
Yeah, stuff
and
like
slept,
that too. Yeah,
slept
stuff,
at the zoo.
that's stuff like that too. So that's
what I was thinking.
I'm doing other
You
stuff.
slept at
like-
the zoo?
Yeah, they have a roar.
Yeah,
and snore.
but roar
You
and
can sleep-
snore.
Roar and snore.
Really?
Roar and snore. Yeah, it's amazing. San Diego Zoo, big plug. Yeah, baby.
Shane. I don't know why I say it this way, but it just some reason surprisingly to me that Shane is a really good dad. Like,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Awesome.
Thank you.
and I
Means a lot.
don't appreciate the fact that it surprises me.
But I also think that comes from you waited later in life to have children.
Yeah.
And I think that's a
I'm a
huge
good friend
element.
too, though. I'm a loyal. Like I stand by people. Do you know what I'm saying? Like that's how I am with my kids, my wife.
That's your culture.
Yeah, that's my thing.
Yeah. It's your tribe.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
Yeah.
his culture
Yeah.
is very giving,
Yeah.
Yeah.
friendly,
Yeah.
loyal.
Yeah.
All wonderful
Yeah,
qualities.
yeah. But with the kids, it's heartbreaking, and you feel like with the children, I have trouble saying no. That's my wife's thing. She's more the disciplinarian. Unless it comes
Oh,
down.
you're the softie?
I'm the softie. Unless it
Wow.
comes down to the grind, where I go, listen, don't make me fucking come out of my shell, okay? Because I will. And I say that to them.
Yeah.
And they probably know that.
Yeah.
They probably come ask you though for the easy things.
Always.
though,
They always ask me
Dad,
everything."
can I? That was my mom
Yeah.
more so than my dad.
Yeah.
With the girls though, and with my sisters,
Yeah.
my dad, but they all went, Daddy,
Yeah, right?
can we go
I know.
buy a new car?
Yeah.
If I went to my dad and said, can we go buy a new? No,
Right?
go get a job.
I know.
Oh,
But with the girls, it was so
So
different.
different.
But I do think you also have to parent each child
100%. 100%.
You know, they all have different personalities.
Yeah.
It can sometimes be rough for, the different kids because the youngest sometimes gets it the easiest, right?
Yeah.
No.
The oldest
Well, just like
talk
7
about
years old
they
because-
paved the way for you,
Yeah, yeah.
and
then there's the middle child.
The middle
Yeah.
child is
All
got-
those are real. All those are true for sure. I
I'm-
feel like you have middle child syndrome. Like
I'm the
it's-
youngest.
I'm the youngest. I definitely.
I'm the baby.
I'm the baby, but I didn't get it easier. I mean, I do say because I'm the only girl, so that's why. But I didn't get to do anything. My parents were stricter with me than my brothers. But my dad told me out the
Rightfully so.
jump.
Rightfully
yeah,
so.
he was like, because you're different. You're a girl. They are boys.
Right.
I don't want to have this conversation again. And I'm like, huh? But and that's just how it was. So.
I will say you as a dad you feel that way.
Yeah.
You feel that way. Like, you know, my
He had no idea, though. I was like, well, just
my
wait.
son, 16, I let the girl go in the room. I didn't let them close the door. But my 16-year-old daughter, I don't even like the boy coming over to the house.
Wow.
I don't like it.
I mean, that's how it was
Tolerate
in my
it.
Yeah,
household
with you,
too.
bro.
Yeah.
Never
I'm with
ever.
you.
I know what little boys are thinking.
Yeah, of
They
course.
are not thinking the same thing she's thinking, or maybe they are, but that's a problem too.
Yeah. It's just and I think also too, what kids aren't realizing, where I'm thankful I did not have a phone, is your choices at this age, even though you are so young, they can haunt you for the rest of your life. So
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't.
Screenshots.
Screenshots, stuff you put on Facebook,
Yeah.
things that you're putting out there on social media. Think about yourself in 7 years when you're going to get a job or trying to do something, and you have like your head on your shoulders. An old photo of you acting a fool or saying something stupid all of a sudden resurfaces. You won't get
I'm
that
so
job.
grateful I didn't have any of that.
Me
stuff.
too.
Right?
I'm so grateful.
Me too.
I remember my mom used to say, "Don't ever put anything on pen and paper.
Smart.
Don't ever put it on pen and paper because it's going to come back to you." And I was like, okay, right? And it's like now. It's
Think about it,
completely
Right?
different.
right? It's for
everything.
real though.
For real. And that's where I feel for
Even
the
Snapchats don't go away.
Yeah. Well, that's what their thing was for a long time, is just snap, then it disappears.
No.
Nothing disappears.
No.
Well,
It's
somebody
somewhere.
can screenshot it. Now you can let them. You can just save them. Snapchat's totally different now. I don't like Snapchat.
I don't have it. I'm not familiar with it.
I don't understand it at all.
I had
It's
it
a
back
hard no.
back in the day. I mean, I have it still, but I have 3 friends: my wife and my children, and that's it.
I mean, what's the youngest? How does somebody reach out to your program? Like, how does that work? Does is it the family or is it the kid? How does?
So the parents would generally call our admissions line, and they would speak with honor, depending on which office where they live. And then generally we just get some basic information over the phone. All of our assessments are free, so they would come in and do an assessment, and at that time we meet with the family, and then one of our therapists will meet with the teen and kind of go through an extensive biopsychosocial. And then that usually takes about an hour, and after that our clinical director looks everything over, and we decide whether or not they're appropriate for our program. Maybe they need a higher level of care, maybe they don't. Maybe they just need some outpatient therapy. So we kind of try to make that distinction.
You do inpatient?
No, we don't. But we
Okay.
do work with a select
Sure.
residential programs that we will refer to, and then we just admit them into our program. They're given a schedule. They see a psychiatrist once a week for medication management, and that's something that's really cool because, a lot of programs, I don't know how often they're seeing the psychiatrist, but for us, they see the psychiatrist once a week to monitor any med changes that are going on, and then our therapist will give feedback on how the client's progressing through the program. And then, so usually they're assigned 1 individual family therapy and 2 hours of individual therapy, and then they have group therapy. And then our favorite night of the week is a multifamily night where all of the teens and all of the parents come. So that's an opportunity that I love, that the parents get to do a group together.
Yeah.
And they start to formulate relationships and bonds. And I think that's really helpful, especially when you have families that have no history of substance abuse or have no mental illness in the family, and they're so unfamiliar, and they're really sideswiped by the fact that their child tried to commit suicide, and they have no idea what it means to navigate mental health or anything like that. So they have the support of other parents as well to sort of welcome them in and,
Make
let them
them feel
know
like
that
they're not alone.
you're not alone,
Yeah,
right?
we're struggling too.
Yeah.
And we don't know how to navigate whatever is going on.
Yeah.
What do you see the most of? Is it parents calling, trying to help their kid with either suicide, depression, or addiction, or is it kind of a combination of all of the above?
It's a combination of all of the above. I think we're seeing a huge spike in THC. We're, obviously
You
suicide.
said THC? So
THC,
marijuana?
marijuana.
Okay.
Yeah. I think that the access that a lot of our adolescents have to marijuana now, it's just so much, right?
Yeah.
You can eat it, you can smoke it, you
it's
can,
for sure.
you know.
Well, they're not smoking. Cigarettes are kind of out the door.
Oh, nobody smokes cigarettes.
No one
anymore.
smokes cigarettes. So they're smoking joints. I mean, it's just
They're
kind of-
vaping, bro.
They're
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
right. They're vaping.
They're
I forgot.
vaping.
They're vaping. Damn, I never vaped.
Yeah.
I did.
It's
I was
such a
thinking
slippery
about
slope.
I was thinking about going back to vaping.
May as
What do
well.
you think? Think I should?
No.
No. I've been off for 2 years.
I think you
Yeah.
should hold
2
strong.
years.
Yeah.
There's no point,
strong.
and it's not healthy. You
should've
live
heard-
a healthy lifestyle.
Should have heard
so-
his cough the day he quit.
What? Oh.
But no, but you were saying that it's THC is the highest that you're seeing.
I mean, we
or
see a lot of
spike.
it. It's, I mean, I'd say mostly it's obviously like severe depression,
Sure.
severe anxiety, suicidal ideation, and then substance abuse. I mean, so it really runs the gamut, you know. But we do see a lot more kids that are smoking, vaping, THC.
Yeah.
And it's hard, right? The adolescent brain is not fully developed,
No.
right? It's not like the street weed you
Yeah.
got back in the 80s and
Seeds
90s.
Well,
everything.
especially
Yeah,
now.
it's crazy now.
And it's hard. It's hard to explain to these kids, you know, it's hard to explain to a teen, hey, you hit that vape, you don't really know what's in it. It could be THC laced with fentanyl. It could be anything,
Yeah,
right?
they're buying off the
And
street.
A lot of awareness and education towards the fentanyl crisis has
But
got to be a big topic for you guys.
it is, but it's still it's teenagers.
Yeah, they're
right?
dumb. They
You
think
don't
they know everything, and it's not going to happen to them.
Exactly. And unfortunately, you can't go into a high school bathroom and not have somebody smoking weed in there. You just can't. Really? It's everywhere.
Wow,
It's everywhere.
Even your kid's school buddy.
that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe.
Ask your son.
I did. He
My
said
son-
no.
My son got honest with me when he was a senior.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. There was drugs at his school. Nice little private school, not big, but all the kids were vaping.
Yeah.
All of them. Not THC, but nicotine.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's again, very challenging time. It's, you know, I mean, I remember parents coming in, I found this device. What is
Sure.
it? You know, and it's everywhere.
Yeah.
It's very difficult. And it's so hard to express how dangerous it is, especially to a group of, you know, our future generation, where it just doesn't feel dangerous enough to them until it's dangerous enough,
Right.
you know? And it's hard when teens lose their friends,
Yeah.
right? Whether it's suicide or whether it's hard not just for teens, but for adults.
Yeah.
You know, whether it's overdose or, you know, suicide, and it's just a tough thing.
What's the youngest individual that has come into your guys' program with their family that you've seen?
12 is what is the youngest we will take. We have worked with 11, but we have gotten calls for 6, 7, 8.
No, that hurts my heart so much, because even at 12, what grade are you in? 7th?
Sixth.
No, you should just be starting to think like
It's really, really heartbreaking, and it's really difficult. You know, and it's getting younger and younger and younger. I was talking to a coworker, and she had told me that they had gotten a call about a 6-year-old who was talking about wanting to end his life. And I think for me, it's just, what is going on? You know, when you're 6 years old and you have this idea, I can't imagine at 6 years old.
Where?
How do you go?
Right.
How do you get there? You know, where do you even understand what that means? And then there's you know, how we talked about earlier about the different phases.
Sure.
Well, when you're young enough and you don't really truly understand what it means to die, you know, in some of the games that kids play and stuff like that, they think that if they unalive themselves, they can come back, and that's a very scary thing. You know, I mean, it's tough.
That's heartbreaking. At 6 years old, I mean, I don't even. I think my first memory was when I was 5. So
Yeah, I
it's
don't.
like,
I mean, I don't.
That
even
is
know
so
if I
sad.
yeah.
At 6, you should be living no worries, like at all.
At 6, can we blame somebody?
I'd
Can we
like
blame
to.
environment?
Sure. You can blame a lot of things.
You know, like your 6-year-old is picking this up from somewhere. You would think
Well,
sometimes.
I mean, it's devices.
I can still blame.
And then it's also
Sure.
what's
I
he.
guess-
But let me ask you a question though. What good does it do to blame?
to stop future problems.
But I don't think that we're in a place where we can stop it. It's
Yeah.
how do we
manage and control
manage and control
or mitigate as much as
mitigate
possible.
or be the difference and be the change, be the, you know, like,
Mentor.
And then the one thing that I think that we're doing is right in this second. We're talking about it. You have
Sure.
a establishment that people can actually go and get well, and families are able to have some type of hope in the sense of going somewhere, doing something, because I think a lot of these guys, our parents are dealing with some of these topics and issues with their own children and have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah.
And just are either do nothing and are silent and think that they're the only one when they're really not, because I've heard this story so many times, and even just like seeing from my nieces and nephews and hearing what's going on at their school is wild. So being able to have conversations like this and putting out the awareness, I think it starts there first. But obviously a lot of things would have to get implemented, from our school system to what are people consuming as 6-year-old.
Well,
That's
I mean,
YouTube content right
they-
there.
they
So what
also-
are they doing?
We also can, the social media companies need to be more
Diligent.
aware and build better algorithms that put more of this type of stuff out versus the garbage that gets.
That'll
put
never
out.
happen. It'll.
I'm just telling you. That's
that would be
you
great
know,
because
like,
it makes
stuff
no
like
sense.
this. Unfortunately, gets somewhat suppressed. You know.
I think it does, and you know, it's kind of. I do see change. I do see a little bit of change. Unfortunately, it's not ever going to happen fast enough for the way things are going now. But I do see some of the stigmas starting to be broken down. But again, it's not happening fast enough. I think more people in the public eye, more things like this that show people that, it's not a secret. It's not a bad thing. I mean, I think reducing the stigma is something that is going to take time. I don't know if we'll ever get there. I was fascinated by a statistic that I won't be able to remember exactly, but so in the Coachella Valley, we have a lot of nonprofits. People raise a lot of money out there, right? For all of these different causes, breast cancer, this, that, millions of dollars. And when we first opened the office in the desert, we partnered with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Okay. And there was this woman, and every Saturday she would come and sit with me, and we would open up the office so anybody who had ever had any questions about suicide, they could come in. And every Saturday we would sit and we would just chit-chat, and nobody, I think one time somebody came in. And she was telling me that it is the most under-supported cause. The American Foundation for Suicide Prevention, especially in the Coachella Valley, of all of the different not-for-profits and things like that, there's such a stigma around it, and yet so many people are affected by it. And I always found that very interesting, because if we think about Alcoholics Anonymous, Narcotics Anonymous, right? Like, these are life-changing programs that literally change people's lives. And then you have something like suicide, right? That is a life-altering thing. I have known a lot of people who have died to suicide. We've, and last year, just over a year ago, one of my really good friends who I got she was working at the treatment center that I got sober at, and I hated being there every single day. And she would always rattle off those one day at a time, you know, those stupid one-liners,
Keep coming back.
yeah, all that, and especially and always did it at the time, when I was just like my most miserable.
Yeah,
right?
you're like, fuck off.
Yeah, I'm literally like, oh my gosh, I can't even with you. Well, and we became very good friends, and we had lost touch. Mm-hmm. And I know she was struggling with sobriety for a while, and my partner and I both knew her very well. And I just was thinking if she was on my heart, you know, she's on my heart, and I was thinking about her, and I was like, I said to Ashley, I was like, we got to reach out to Mandy, you know. Mm-hmm. And so I reached out to her, and we had worked it out, so she was going to come over, and we were all going to reconnect and hang out, and she mentioned that she was struggling, and so she was supposed to come over, and I got a phone call the morning that she was supposed to come over that she had took her life. And it was at that moment that I was just, you can't understand it, right? You can't, I don't know that I'd heard about it. I've been indirectly affected by it. But it was in that moment where I was like severely touched by it. And I was like, why is this not talked about more? What are we doing wrong? Why can we not take 5 or 10 minutes out of our day to reach out to somebody that when they cross their mind and say, hey man, how's it going? I'm guilty of it, right? But it was, and same goes for our kids. Mm-hmm. You're not too busy for your kid. You're not too busy to sit down and go into their room before you go to bed and say, hey, how was your day at school? Or is there anything on your heart that you want to talk about? You know, I'm here for you if there's ever anything. And it's just taking those little moments that could totally change the trajectory of a relationship.
Or that person's life. I agree, and I'm feeling it right now because I had a call 2 days ago on Wednesday. Last week, on the way to church, from John. I've known him for about 15 years. He said he's going through stuff. His mom is not doing well. Mm-hmm. And he was supposed to call me back. He didn't call me back. He called me the next day and said, hey, sorry, I didn't call you. My mom's not doing well. Could you give me a call back? I haven't called him yet. Because I didn't want to deal with it.
No, when you get out of this podcast.
No, but I think don't beat yourself up. I think
you know what I'm saying, though.
I know, but it's a natural thing for people because life is busy and you're dealing with a lot with your own personal family. So don't feel bad about it. Obviously, you're gonna call him today.
Yeah.
But what it makes me the fact that people the nonprofit is the least.
It's just there's so much stigma.
So bad.
It's so much stigma around suicide, and I think that. I think that there is because you don't want to take a look at it, right? It's painful. And I had so many questions. Sure. I laid in bed that night with Ashley, and we were just kind of like trying to process. And I finally just looked at her and I said, look, like, unfortunately, I don't think that we'll ever really know.
Yeah.
So while we could sit here all night long and hypothesize on why, it just is. And that's where acceptance comes into a lot of it, right? Like, things are just going to happen. Mm-hmm. Life is going to happen. And, you know, with teens and working with families, you just try to, you know, give them the best possible toolbox, if they even know what that is. I mean, nobody does, right?
Right.
And you can't really... Nobody likes to talk about it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. It's one of those things where I think when you notice something is off with people, everyone has some type of intuition. I feel, and especially if they're close or if it's your kid or if you're a coach who's coaching adolescents, you know if your player is off or not, you know. And taking that extra, you know who really does a good job with it? Deion Sanders.
Yeah.
Because he went through his phase at the top of his career where he was suicidal. He had everything. Like, looking on the outside, looking in, you would think he made it. He got it.
Sure.
I mean, the dude's playing professional 2 sports, baseball and football,
Yeah.
killing it, and he wanted to crash his car into a wall and kill himself.
Yeah.
So him being open and honest about that time period to where he is today is huge, because
Sure.
it
100%.
removes a little bit of that stigma, especially for men. And then also too, he mentioned a recent story from one of his kids that he coached. Something was off with his player. He didn't know exactly what, so he took an extra 5 minutes and said, "Hey, so-and-so, meet me in my office." I don't know if it was, I'm prefacing, I don't know if it was before practice or after practice.
Right.
And so he had just a quick little conversation with the kid. He opened up first with a story about his past suicidal kind of timeline in his own personal life. And the kid was going through, his girlfriend had cheated on him. So he was broke. Young kids, they feel like that's their world and life is over.
100%.
So he was taking it really hard. And so he just had that kind of man-to-man conversation with this young boy and letting him know, giving him a little bit of guidance. And then he balled out after that and he made first team all league. But what if he didn't have that conversation?
Sure.
You know, then you're dealing with, as a young kid, you're dealing with a lot of emotions that you don't have our emotional toolkit that we have the tools from the program to
Right.
deal with. So you're dealing with it in so many probably not the most healthy habits.
Sure.
And you can turn to drugs or alcohol or gaming or whatever it may be, you know? So it's having those conversations or taking a little bit of time out, even in our busy days, if you see something is off with somebody that you kind of see on a regular basis.
Yeah.
But no one can control, you can only control so much.
I know. It's hard.
It
It's
is.
hard. It's hard because, I mean, and I'm guilty of it too, right? Like, there's so much time that goes by in a day, right? So quickly. And I'm like, oh, I need to do this. I need to do that. And blah, blah, blah. But it happens, right? It just happens. You can't always be everywhere all the time and ask all the questions.
Tell me, look, really quick, I want to jump back. Tell us a little bit more about your program. Where are all the locations?
So we have one in Mission Viejo. We have one in San Marcos. We have one in Palm Desert and one in Murrieta.
My daughter went through the one in Mission Viejo
Nice.
in 2014, maybe? 417, right?
Yep, 417.
Yeah. Do you guys know the reference of 417? Do you know where that comes from?
No.
The Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the it's the page. I think it's the original page, or 449 is the original page.
449 is
449.
the original page, and then
And now it's 417.
417. But I
417.
heard that they
Changed
are
it again?
changing it again.
Oh, really?
Which is where it says
The acceptance paragraph.
acceptance is the key to all of my problems today,
Oh, okay.
which is probably one of the
Yeah, I've gotten told many times. from
Best
the sponsor,
things.
Can you go read this page, please?
like one of the
No.
best things
Yeah, it is.
to
It's really
come
good.
out of the Big Book of Alcoholics
Yeah.
Anonymous, because the sooner you can accept life on life's
Yeah.
terms, and acceptance doesn't mean that you have to like it. You just accept it. This is how it is. But you came to the conclusion of acceptance that night with your partner. You were like, it just is. We may not ever be able to figure this out.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, life,
There's a lot of rabbit
yeah.
holes to go down.
You can.
But it just is. It just is.
Yeah.
Wait, guys, I'm still going back. What's 417? What page is that?
Page 417.
417.
So that's the reference of it. Wait, you were saying the original page, the one that I know, 449.
I think
Yeah.
it's the
So is
first
it-
and the second edition.
Yeah, first
It's
and
on
second
page.
edition.
The
Yeah.
acceptance paragraph is on page 449.
Okay.
And then the third and the fourth, I believe it's on page 417.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. That's cool.
Yeah.
That's actually really cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So
That's
that's
hard.
incredible.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more, because I came in, and what I recall you saying is did you meet the people from the Mission BA, the original group, and you partnered with them? Is that what you said?
So I had known, I had met Rodney and Vito when I was working for a treatment center doing business development. And then I just had questions about what it would be like to open up like an adolescent program.
Yeah.
And, I think it was a guy named Ryan. I called up Ryan and I said, hey, like I have these questions, and Andrew, and they're like, oh, call Scott. And so I called up Scott and he's like, what? Who are you? And I was like, well, just spend a few minutes like with me, like thinking about, doing an adolescent program. And so I drove up to Orange County and I sat with him. We talked for probably like 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
And we just hit it off, and I think that ethically, morally, what I wanted to do was very much aligned with what he was already doing. And I think it was always a dream of his to open more locations. And so I said, well, let me see if I can figure it out. And so then I was like, great, like I have this plan. And I went to my dad and I said, this is what I want to do. I have this plan. And he was like, you can't come to me with a spiral notebook of this idea.
Right.
Like, if you really want to do this, I need a business plan. I need blah, 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 blah. And I was like, what? Like, I don't know how to do any of it.
Yeah.
Fairly newly sober, only a few years, still cleaning up a lot of message.
Yeah.
Sure.
How in the world am I going to do this? But, through the grace of God and just how, God put people in my lives at certain times that I was able to call up someone and say, hey, I've got to do this. Do you know anything about it? And spend some time with that person. And they would. So, and needless to say, like a good alcoholic, I put together like the most epic business plan. Like, of course, it was like 19 pages. I mean, it was just, my dad took it to his finance guy and he was like, I've never seen anything like this. And so, but of course I had to do a lot of footwork. I had to go to every single bank. I had to go to the SBA. I had to get turned down and turned down and turned down. And I think by that time I was walking dogs to support myself or dog sitting or something. I mean, I was doing whatever. I lived in a small casita. It was not glamorous by any stretch, but, and then my dad called me up and he said, hey, I think, I'm going to help you do this. And I was like, okay. And so he did. And that's probably the best thing that I've ever got to do, is just working with teens is so hard. It is hard. Like all of those people are like, it's really hard. And it took me a long time to not take it home.
Yeah.
It took me a long time
That
of
was my
having to
question,
do that, but it's those moments that like you run into that parent in the grocery store or somewhere and they say, thank you for saving my kid's life. He hated coming to your program and fought me every single day, but today he thanks me for it. And it's those moments don't happen as often as I think one would like. Yeah. But when they do, it makes it all very worth it, right? Like somebody said, you must not be successful. You work in treatment. And I said, well, that depends on your definition of success.
I always like to use the analogy of dropping a pebble into the water.
Yeah.
Because that's the one life you changed.
Yeah.
You helped change that one life. You drop that pebble in, and then the ripples go on.
Forever. And that's what I tell some of my staff. I say, you guys, you got to remember that right now you are changing the trajectory of somebody's life. And while it's hard and you're grinding with them and they're going through all of this stuff and you are right there, like you are their ride or die, whether they get sober, stay sober, whether they're forever changed, in this moment, it doesn't matter, because for the rest of their life, they will look back on this and you will have made an impact on where they go and what they do. The trajectory of their world and their parents' world is forever changed. You have impacted their life. And if only for a moment, but hopefully long term, right?
Yeah. No, that's facts right there. Facts. You can't come into somebody's life and not change the trajectory of it. That is such a hard word to say, man. I screw it up all the time. And like when I'm trying to like do a public speech and I want to use that word, I'm like, I start sweating right before I say it. Trajectory of someone's life.
Yeah.
You know, and one life affects thousands, sometimes tens of thousands.
It's true.
You know, and I mean, I have to tell you, your story of how you got to where you are is so similar to mine. I was working in treatment after a car accident, right after my first child was born. And I knew that God had left me here to help other people that suffer from the same thing I do. And I just wanted to have a little tiny 6-bed treatment center of my own because the place I was working for was a disaster.
Yeah.
I mean, they got me sober, but once I got on the inside and I saw the insanity of what was going on, I just wanted something small and ethical.
Yeah.
And I went to my dad, and unlike your dad, my dad helped me with the business plan. And we together went out looking for financing, and we couldn't find it.
Yeah.
So we took every penny that we had, which was about $10,000 cash, and some credit cards, and we just went for it. We rented a house. We got it licensed. We could only afford 2 beds because it was a 6-bed facility.
Yeah.
We bought the 2 beds, and it was all cash pay industry back then.
Yeah.
When we filled those first 2 beds, we went out and bought 2 more beds.
Nice.
And then we filled those 2, and then we went out and bought 2 more beds.
That's awesome.
It'll be 23 years on October 15th that we founded Hope by the Sea. And Hope by the Sea is a 104-bed treatment center, full continuum of care now that has just, it's been a staple of the industry. Still owned and operated by the Carlson family.
Nice.
You know?
Yeah.
What a blessing. What an amazing story. And like, that is literally God working in your life.
Oh, it's amazing. And it's like having those moments of just being super present and the reflection and looking back on all the things that had to fall in line from, you know, to get me from there to here. Oh. It's just all God's work. It really is. And, you know, I'm just blessed. I'm super grateful. You know, and like I said, you can't save everybody. You can't help every kid. You can't help every family. Right. There's some that just breaks your heart, and you just know that it's, you know, but it's having the hope and having meeting them where they are and really taking the time, you know, really taking the time. And I can tell you that by the time they complete our program and by the time they graduate, everybody's there. It's waterworks for days, you know, and we still have parents who keep in touch, and it's just, you create an extended family. Yeah. And I think for us, being family owned, being small, not, you know, corporate ran, we have the ability to make those decisions. You have the ability to say to a family who's super stressed out about money, that single mom who might lose coverage, you know what, don't worry about it. We're going to go ahead and see this through and make sure that you and your kid, your son or your daughter, continue to get the care that you need.
That's the best part. I can't stand the corporate, and as big as any of my organizations have gotten it, and as long as I'm in charge, that will always be the case. Yeah. You will never see me turn somebody or discharge somebody because their insurance ran out, their insurance off, they have no more available coverage. Yep. If they're not done, if they're not ready to go home, then they're staying. Yeah. They're staying.
And it's changing, right? Like, this industry is rapidly changing all the time.
It's crazy.
Right. It's changing so quickly. I mean, we used to get a phone call and it would be, can you help our kid? Do you take our insurance? And now the first thing is, do you take our insurance? Can you help my kid? It's so really crazy. It's very trying time. So it's like, you know, having the space and having the, you know, the boots on the ground, the smaller facilities, the real just, like, for example, Honor's been a blessing for us. She has relationships with these families that there could be, anything could go on and they call in a drop of a hat, right? They know where to go. They know who to ask. And maybe, I think for us, just also being a resource. And we tell people all the time, if anything, let us be a resource for you.
For sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Did you hear her, Shane?
Resource, yes.
She
I heard
said
it.
resource.
Yeah.
He's Canadian.
You know what?
Shane's Canadian. And he says
I
resource.
use a Z.
What?
I don't know why. I use
I've
a
never.
Z.
It's
Resource.
Canadian.
Resource.
They all
Resource?
say resource.
You know what I'm wondering? I mean, we keep mentioning God. We always fall back to God. We need God when we're sober, when we're going through stuff, when we get sober, we
Sure.
need God. Yet look at our community. God is disappearing. Over the last 10, 15 years.
Or is he making a comeback?
Well, he's making a comeback. But what I'm saying is over the last 10, 15 years, they've taken God out of a lot of schools. They've taken religious studies. No longer a class.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, is like there's so many elements of like what needs to be kind of changed for things to make a really big difference, starting
Yeah.
especially with the youth.
100%.
I mean, it's even going back to the insurance thing. Shame on our insurance companies. Shame on our healthcare for making it absolutely a pain in the ass to deal with. Where
It's difficult.
It's really difficult. It is.
It's a barrier to treatment. And,
Well,
I
forget
don't, and I
about
don't
that.
like
I'm
It is a
gonna
barrier
go
to
a
that.
step further. I'm going to go shame on parents for not praying with their kids. Shame on parents for not bringing God in the home every bloody day.
Whoa, I was
Bloody-
talking about
he was going to say
health
the F word.
insurance, and we will.
No,
He went.
But
Yeah.
I'm just saying. You know,
But-
Chad prays with his kids. He does that. I mean, that's you got to.
Yeah.
Well, it just is spilling into how traditional upbringings. Then it just with everything, you know, sometimes the pendulum is super on this side, and then you need it to kind of come down a little bit and relax. Well, now it's gone completely the other way. Where I remember growing up and everybody was going to church on Sundays.
You know what?
Regardless
There
of
you
your
go.
religion.
You have
Sure.
religion.
You know what I
religion
like though?
It's never too much.
I just want
I
to
know.
throw out the 12-step program, because good for the 12-step program for allowing us to have a personal relationship with a God that we can do business with on a daily basis.
100%.
And not that scary God that that I
have
grew up with,
Oh,
because
yeah.
that God scared me.
Well, that's why
And I don't think I would have,
100%.
you know, and if it wasn't for Narcotics Anonymous, which I don't know why I just like stumbled. I felt like I was breaking a tradition. But if it wasn't for Narcotics Anonymous, I wouldn't have found what I found. The all-loving God that can love a crazy person like me.
Yeah.
True.
That forgives me for all the crap that I've done, and has helped me be able to forgive myself for the junk.
that's why I say even a non-addict or alcoholic, man, pick up the AA book.
Do you know, it's funny because I run 12 steps on people who don't even know that they're being 12.
Dude, I do too. I do too.
You know,
All
it's
spit program, like,
yes.
one day.
run game on them. Like use it
It's
to your
my best
advantage.
asset.
amazing.
I mean,
That's
I use that
amazing.
all
That's
the time.
awesome.
It really
I
truly
mean,
is.
it is, and you know, it's like sometimes it's like I know I'm doing it, you know, especially like,
Sure.
with my family members.
Of
like
course.
I will just
Yeah. Totally.
Spit
but
some game.
you know, I'm grateful for it. I
Yeah.
have the tools. Right?
It's the best. I mean, it's funny that you just said that because I got sober because of my oldest brother, but there'll be multiple conversations where he's like, "Fuck off! Don't try to toss at me." I'm like, it's funny though because obviously him being in the program, you can tell kind of the segue of what I'm trying to do here, but it's such a beneficial, easy program. Doesn't matter. You can create the God of your own understanding. It's very simplistic.
God
it's
is
extremely
God
helpful.
at the end of the day. It doesn't really, you don't have to put all these crazy rules on God. I don't even think, even if you believe in Jesus, that wasn't his intention. You know, so
I think I overcomplicated it. You know,
Did you?
I really did. And I talked. My sponsor is the simplest one, and she would always say, "Find a quiet place and pray." And I was like, finally went to her, and I was like, "I don't know how to pray." And she's like, "What are you talking about?" You know. And I'm like, "Well, doesn't it happen?" She's like, "Stop.
Yeah.
Just stop." She's like, your prayers are your conversations with God. And I was like, okay, like that I can wrap my head around. So it's like, because in my mind, I'm like, oh, I've got to have like this full on dialogue of a prayer, like at night or in the morning when I hit my knees, whatever.
Routine
and
prayer.
she said, no. Like, and so it's just breaking it all down and having that spirituality. Like, there's so many nights I fall asleep just talking to God.
Oh, yeah.
And I just pass out. Like, I don't even, I don't wake up in the morning and go, oh, I left something out. It's for me, it was something that it was always this thing that I didn't understand. And I felt like it had to be this expectation.
Sure.
And when I finally wrapped my head around that, it didn't have a label. It didn't have a name. It just was. It was whatever I wanted it to be. It wasn't a doorknob. It wasn't a rock. It wasn't all of the things.
Yeah.
You know, it was just God. And I think for me, it was developing that relationship with God became something sacred to me. Like, that's my relationship.
Yes.
That is for me. Right. And so that's why those sunrises. And as I'm going through this recovery process, there's certain things became very sacred to me. And that relationship with God is one of them. And there are so many times when I would love to say, I wish I knew what his plan was. Right. Like, because, you know, when life gets lifey and you're trying to navigate all the BS and stuff, and you're like, why is this happening? Well, it's happening for a reason. Right. It's just like that saying of like, well, if you get stuck and you can't get out of the house because you snag your shirt on the door, maybe you're being protected from something else. And so sometimes it's that pause of like just letting go, man. And like, I'm not good at it all the time, but when I can, it's such a breath of fresh air.
Oh, for sure. It's
I was just thinking that one time I was driving in Florida and someone who's driving was smoking a cigarette and their ash came back and burned my brand new white shirt.
Stop it.
I was
Wait.
I was
Driving?
You weren't feeling very spiritual at that time, were you?
No, not at all. The guy was driving in the front seat smoking a cigarette. He went to ash out the window.
And you're
was
in the back seat? You should have had your window up.
I did. The ash came back, hit me.
Yeah, a lot of times the ash will fly out and right back in the same window.
Hit me, and we had to go back to the home to change my shirt. So you're right.
So you know what? You guys might have
disaster.
Yeah. You don't know.
I feel bad that I yelled at Charlie like that.
His name was Charlie.
No, I forget who's driving.
Oh.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But it's
you reminded me of that. So I said, thank you.
It's so true, and you know, and I love that personal relationship, that personal connection. You know, and what the other part about the 12-step program that taught me was to be okay with whatever everybody else has.
Everything.
You know, and that's where sometimes I get turned off by religion. And not to say that I'm not religious. It just sometimes turns me off. And I like to know that other people they're having that same conversation.
They have a spiritual connection.
It is because
and I do feel like we're in a time where there's a huge lack of spiritual connection.
Absolutely.
Right? I think there's so many things that have gone on where it's just like, you know, there's more than a handful of parents, because in our old office in the desert, we used to have the acceptance paragraph, because it was always a dream of mine, right? When I was in treatment, my sponsor, read 417 every day, blah, blah, blah. And so ironically that I ended up where I did. So,
but look at that.
Right.
It's like, that's just the type of shit I love. Because certain weird things like that, for instance, at that moment, you're basically like, fuck off, 417. I don't want to read this fucking page.
Oh, no.
And then it's like, fast forward. And that's why I'm like, you're dope.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And so, you know, I would dream of it in being in like old typewriter print. So when I got my first office, there was this one wall. It wasn't a big wall, but I painted it like yellow, like an old piece of paper. And I had a friend of mine who had a graphic design business. I said, hey, can you take this paragraph and put it in old typewriter print? I just want to put it on this wall here. And so we did. And it was, you know, on the wall. And so many parents would come in and they wouldn't make the connection.
Sure.
But we had parents that would come in and say, well, I don't want to be in this program if it's about God. And I'm like, no, that's not a program about God. But, you know, well, it says God right there. But we don't, that's not what this is,
and
you know.
Like, and talk about missing the forest for the trees, you know? that's the type of thing where I don't know where we dropped the ball, because it has spewed into people having such a negative reaction when it's removed. I mean, I grew up with, I was raised Catholic. My best friend was Mormon. Our other girlfriends and boyfriends were Jewish.
Yeah.
There is so much religion in amongst us, and then everybody, when they went home, they would do their family traditions.
Right.
And it was amazing, because when you got to go to somebody else's house, you were then invited into their culture for the night, or see how they do their life on a particular day. And then you get to go back to your house and you guys get to talk about, it wasn't this weird thing like, you're not allowed to go over there because they don't believe in our beliefs.
Yeah.
Isn't that counterintuitive of what God and religion is supposed to be? We're supposed to be loving of thy neighbor.
It's also counterintuitive of what our country was established on.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Freedom of religion.
Yeah. So I do think that it's a big lack there of spilling into lots of things that people need, that spiritual connection, whatever that may be.
Whatever it is.
Totally.
It doesn't matter anymore.
It
It's
doesn't.
just there's such a, it's like, it almost feels like an emptiness, right?
Well, people
Yeah.
need it.
Emptiness.
It
Yeah.
is like an
There's an
emptiness.
emptiness.
It's not, it's, you know, I tell parents all the time, you can't say, well, when I was a kid, because we're not there
Yeah,
anymore.
yeah,
We're so far
We're
gone
so
from
far
that.
gone.
Like, we're
Yeah.
so far gone from
Yeah.
that. It's we're not going back to when it was 20 cents to call somebody on a payphone. It's never happening.
Oh my gosh.
Like,
I do
you know?
remember using like a quarter and
It was a
payphones.
dime when I
Digging
first
around,
started.
looking for some
Wow.
change in the car.
It was a quarter
It was
when I
it was a dime, then it went to 20 cents, and then it became 25.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a quarter. Wow, that's
Cigarettes, they used to
wild.
sell them at the Red Baron Pizza place out of a vending machine, and it was like 4 quarters. And me and my buddies, we were little skater punks, and we would run to the Red Baron. We would put the 4 quarters
That's
in,
hilarious.
and we would be so scared we'd pull whatever lever was closest
Yeah.
to us, hoping we wouldn't get like menthols or something. But we would smoke whatever we got,
You
right?
smoke whatever you got.
And
yeah.
then we would run out, and the guy would chase us out of there.
Yeah. I remember those cigarette vending machines. They had one at the mall. You
Just
run.
pull
It
on
was
the
always
lever.
in this weird spot, like this
Like
secret,
shady
like
little
you're
corner.
shady little corner in the mall downstairs by Macy's or something. So you go in there and somebody's on the lookout and nobody's monitoring. Nobody's monitoring it at
totally.
all. Like, it
I don't
didn't-
even know if the guy cared if we took the cigarettes.
not.
It's
Probably
like,
not.
we were
Everybody's
the-
like, get out of here, you little shitbags.
Yeah.
we were like, it was just a group of us. We were the same group every time that
Yeah.
would come. We would get out. We would all start hanging. There was this Miguel's Jr. that we would go eat lunch, and then we would go skate over to the Red Baron right there. And one of us, we'd be like, "You're going in today. You're going in today." Good times though, man. And you're right. We're never going back to those times.
No.
But I mean, we're in a bad state where the first thing out of some parents' mouths is first of all, their child is not doing well, hence they're there. And they're like, well, we can't do this program because the first thing they see is a picture frame that mentions God.
No, I mean, this was a couple. I mean, it was just a couple of families that did that. I mean, it doesn't happen often, but it was, still, it's just
It's interesting.
it's no different than when you go into AA, right?
Yeah.
Or
Yeah.
or
Yeah, that's
NA,
very
and
true.
somebody's like,
Yep.
well, I don't have a God, and
Yep.
it's like, okay, well, you
We got a chapter for you.
You don't have to have a
you don't
God,
have
but
to
let's
have one.
let me know how
Yeah,
that works
exactly.
out for you.
You're here, right?
You know, I mean,
Your
just-
best thinking got
Yeah,
you into the rooms,
exactly.
but
Yeah.
you don't want to hear that.
Oh,
when
no, I
you're-
tell my girls that all the time.
And I grew up in a religion, so it wasn't really that difficult for me to find God. But when I do recall my sponsor, because I was like, I just don't know anymore. That wasn't working for me.
Yeah.
What I grew up with, and my sponsor was like, they just ask you to find a power greater than you.
that's it.
He said, can you go
Easy.
stand in front of a wave and not get knocked down? And I said, no, I can't. He said, well, there's a power greater than you. Start there. Start there. Start with nature. Start with the fact that a wave is more powerful than you.
Yeah.
So I started there. And then I just started praying. And eventually I came back to my old God, but I had a new understanding of my old God.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A totally different understanding of my old God.
Yeah.
Like what I was thinking before was just nonsense.
Yeah.
God to me is all loving, all kind, completely unconditional with his love
That's the way
and
it should be.
accepting,
Yeah.
right?
To everyone.
And a power greater than me.
Yeah. I feel like it's pretty simple, but we like to complicate things.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And that's where it gets kind of
Well, dang, I had a really good time.
I had a random thought
And-
just now.
What was it?
How much I have to love your guys' voices to hear it every day like this.
Likewise.
Yeah.
But you're amazing. Congratulations on your own
Yeah.
personal sobriety.
appreciate
But
417.
guys.
Nice. Good
Yeah.
for you. And we have calls for adolescents. I'm going to talk to a couple of the guys here. We'll
yeah,
for sure.
Definitely.
it's awesome to see what God can do in other people's lives, especially from how you got into the business and to now what you're doing on a daily basis is really cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank
Yeah,
you guys for having me.
congratulations.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for coming down.